Okay, so we've got some audio here from 1994 which shows the covert attempts to evade UFO disclosure laws. This was June the 8th, 1994, and this is the audio. I'm going to just go through the description, then the audio's playing. A newly released audio-only recording from June the 8th, 1994 captures the US Air Force interviewing Professor Charles B. Moore, physicist and meteorologist who played a key role in Project Mogul, at his dining table. In this clip, Moore references Robert Todd, a persistent Roswell researcher known for his sharp criticism of the UFO community. Todd was seeking to communicate privately with Air Force officials in a deliberate attempt to circumvent FOIA protocols, an effort to stop documents from being released to UFO buffs. Moore also reveals that Colonel Duffy kept significant materials stored in his basement, documents presumably never seen by the public. This is hard evidence of a deeper, more controlled information network surrounding the Roswell incident. Here's the audio.
For you not give us copies of all this information?
Right, he's dug up the things with Colonel Duffy, and he wants to be sure that they don't get released to the other UFO buffs, or the UFO buffs. I think he's not one under Freedom of Information. So I think he's willing to have it transferred to you as a private communication.
I see.
I think Colonel Weaver promised that he could arrange it so that it would not come under Freedom of Information disclosure, which may be odd for Todd to be asking, but I thought you'd find that of some interest.
Well, the end report that we're going to write is going to be based on official records and essentially transcripts such as this. So there'll be a lot of things on Cabot's tape. The transcript will not be part of that. This statement,
but the summary will.
The statement will be.
Can I make a suggestion? If you remember, there was a note in there from Dave Atlas to Colonel Duffy, a copy of a letter, I think, there. And Dave mentioned somewhere or another that Colonel Duffy took him down in his basement, and he had large amount. Colonel Duffy had trunk full of documents that were unclassified. I wonder if it would be possible for you to contact Mrs. Duffy, who
I was wondering about what she might have.
Well, I think she may have a great...
So that's an interesting piece of history there, bit of insight into how they did these covert things to evade the laws and stuff like that. So I'm going to leave it with you to decide and do some research on it. There's an archive thing, I will link it in the thing. I want to speak to people about what the comments, the messages I've had about Richard Doty, like, you don't believe him about the alien interview tape, you don't believe him about this, and no, I don't. Every single bit of that interview, you can take it however you want it. It's for you, it's for the audience to go and think, saying, oh, you should have asked, yes, there was reasons we couldn't push as much as we wanted to. We have guests lined up, and we don't want to, interfere with that. We have to take everybody individual, and we have to, do that. Hopefully we'll get a Richard Doty part 2. And we can get other people on the panel that want to ask questions, stuff like that. There is one thing that Richard Doty said which I totally disagree with. He said the alien interview tape, the alien in that thing was from the 50s. And I said, well, I thought it was from 89. If you listen to what I said, oh, I thought it was 89, because that's where I think it is. There's a lot of people that think it's from the Kalahari incident. He said it's from the 50s, so that means it's been 30 odd years and then they're interviewing him in the 80s. Don't make sense to me. Like, you'd be comfortable after 30 years, I think, of what this alien can do, and you don't have to do what you're doing there. Did it take 30 years of being interviewed? No, I don't. Can they survive that long? I don't know. That just doesn't make sense. I've never come across that being from the 50s, ever. It could be, but it just I don't think it is. I've not come across that alien being from the 50s and being interviewed in the 80s. I think that's throwing us off. There's a few things that he said that worried me when he said, oh, you're right about where the huge UFO over the building is. He said, you're in the right thing or something like that. That scares me because it means, well, hold on a minute. But then to counteract this, and I've said this in my comments to people and stuff like that, he also said we can trust George Knapp, Jeremy Corbell, and I think he said Lorenzo or something like that. I need to re-listen to that name, Lorenzo. Now, I love George Knapp. I think he's credible. But if we're supposed to not listen to Richard Doty, but then Richard Doty's telling us to listen to George Knapp, that makes me worry as well. We've got to see it from both sides then, right? Okay, do we take George Knapp as bullshit? Do we take Jeremy Corbell as bullshit? Now, it's well known that George Knapp said himself that, he's been infiltrating, he's been fed false information. The first documentary he's done in a long time on Netflix last year, the first thing he went into was the Colares incident and how we're potentially being harvested. That's deep. For George Knapp, first episode, we're basically being harvested on this planet. It's like a zoo planet. That's deep. So it makes you think, has he been fed? Is George Knapp part of it? Is George Knapp disinformation? And we all think he's the GOAT. He has been going for a long time. How can he get away with it? You've got to be, think, maybe, you don't know, do you? Maybe George Knapp is the GOAT of disinformation, then we don't know. And I'm not saying that, but if people are saying we shouldn't believe Richard Doty on this, then we should be sceptical and thinking, well, hold on a minute, he's saying we should believe George Knapp. Why is he saying that then if we don't believe anything Richard Doty says? We have got Jon Stewart on May the 3rd, by the way. I will do a promo, and we can get into the alien interview tape on that as well. So that should be good, but I think there'll be some back and